Welcome back to Issues and Interviews with Michael Lawler on the Hudson Power Broker YouTube channel. Great guest today, candidate for New York State Supreme Court, Rich Guertin. Am I saying your name right there, Judge Guertin?
That's perfect. Good morning.
Yes, beforehand we were talking about how it rhymes with certain. That's a very good rhyming word for a judge. I like a judge who's certain and confident in his decisions.
That's what we're called to do. You may not like to have to make the decision, but that's the job. You make the decision that you think is right.
Good, and I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. I see you're in your car there on this rainy October day, and I know you have a calendar in a few minutes because you're currently a sitting City of Middletown judge. Is that correct? That's correct.
Right. I have landlord, tenant, and small claims cases this morning.
Okay, very interesting because I kind of cut my teeth in the city of Poughkeepsie City Court. Judge Mora handles all the landlord tenants, and I used to go in there every landlord tenant calendar with 12 files under my arm, and you really learn on your feet in a court like that with a high volume of landlord tenant files under your arm.
Yeah, and in fact, my experience back in the 80s and 90s, I used to represent a lot of landlords in landlord tenant matters. But as a judge, I can't take that position. A judge has to be fair and impartial, basically totally independent, and apply the law to the facts. And so now my hat is totally different as a judge. I'm not an advocate. Right. I have to rule based on what the law and the facts are, regardless of who or what I advocated for in the past. That's my role now.
Now let me ask you this: you're coping with new landlord tenant laws in city court in all landlord tenant matters, and then we have the moratoriums, which have some exceptions to them. But that it's got to be a challenging time to be handling those kind of cases because you're implementing new laws in the last year, and now you have these executive orders coming down due to the pandemic.
Right. Yeah. The legislature almost totally overhauled the landlord tenant law back in June of 2019. And in their the legislative history and in their committee reports, they said they basically were moving the needle more toward protection of tenants. So as a judge, I'm bound to that. I have to consider that. And now we do have moratoria on landlord tenant. Anything that started after March 17th, we can't even hear. It's automatically suspended. The only thing that we can deal with now are cases that arose before COVID hit. But they're subject to, as you said, there's executive orders that have put a stop on certain types of cases. And then we have our own guidance from the administrative office as to what we can and can't do. So it's very limited at this point. But what we can do, we're doing. We're trying to keep the courts going.
Right. And I was reading your background. You have a great career in the law. Give us your background. I saw a couple of interesting things. One, you worked for the late, great Ben Gilman, a man that I knew a little bit. And I have a great picture. He spent the last few years of his life in the VA hospital here in my district.
Right.
Castle Point, VA. And I used to go there, and visit the vets. And I have a great picture of my son, Mikey, who's now 11. He was probably 4 or 5 at the time. Congressman Gilman was couldn't have been more gracious. And Bill Larkin, another great Orange County man, was in the picture too. So tell us about your career and especially the Ben Gilman stuff back in the day.
All right. Sure enough. Well, I grew up in Middletown, went to Middletown schools, Orange County Community College. The way I ended up with Ben Gilman, I actually applied after I graduated from OC. I was going to go to Hamilton College upstate, and he had a summer intern program. And I applied, and I was chosen. So I worked the summer with him. He was 20 years old. I mean, the most I had seen up to that point was probably the Orange County Fair with the cows, not much beyond that. But I worked with him for the summer, and then a staff position opened up in his office. So I made a proposal to him. I said, if I could defer my college for a year, could I stay with him for a year? And he agreed. So I actually spent the whole year in Washington, D.C. with Congressman Gilman. He was absolutely a people person. His whole goal was not necessarily legislation, although he was the chair of the Foreign Relations Committee ultimately, but his goal was to help people. And that impressed me. It made a big mark on me as to how you deal with people and how you treat them, and that everyone is special and important. So that year with Ben was really eye-opening, and again, he just cared so much about people. So just briefly, after that year, I did go back to college, went to Hamilton, upstate New York, typical quintessential college on a hill, which was beautiful and a strong liberal arts education. And then I went to New York University School of Law. After I graduated, I always figured I'd come back to the Middletown area, but I had an opportunity. I did well enough in law school that I had an offer from a major international law firm, Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher, and I worked in their Los Angeles and Washington offices for 2 years. And then My former state senator, John Bonisic, I knew him through a group in high school. I was Key Club governor for New York State, and he was in the Kiwanis, and I knew him through that. I saw him one time when I was visiting mom and dad at home, and he said, "Rich, I need an associate." So I came back home and been up here ever since. So through the years, I've had private practice, probably about 32 years of private practice up here, mostly focused on civil cases. I was a city of Middletown attorney for about 25 years, an attorney for town of Waukegan, town of Wawayanda, village of Otisville, planning board and zoning board, and other local municipalities. So that's been the focus primarily of my practice. Oh, and one other thing, for a 2-year stint while I was corporation counsel, I was full-time starting in the 90s. Still had a little side private practice, but in 2000, the former commissioner of public works, who had been there 25 years, retired. So the mayor asked if I could be both corp counsel and commissioner of public works for a month to sign vouchers. And I did. Well, at the end of the month, we had a 2-foot snowstorm, and everyone freaked out. They thought, the former guy was no longer there, but they didn't realize he didn't drive the snowplows, that all the other guys did. And I got to be friendly with them and recognize them, that they were really the workers. And we got through that 2-foot snowstorm, and basically I ended up being commissioner of public works and corp counsel together for 2 years before I came. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was tons of hours, including middle of the night, water main and sewer main break. I couldn't fix the pipes, but I could go out and bring coffee to the guys, and I did. Coffee and donuts.
Nice, very nice. And how long have you been a city court judge in the city of Middletown?
I was on for a couple of years in the early 2000s, and in the current stint since May of 2018, full time.
Okay, very nice. And you're running for state Supreme Court, different than city court,
right?
Different kind of calendar, different jurisdiction, and a huge area. You're running in a huge area.
I am.
The geography is really like the size of some states.
It's actually the size of 2+ congressional districts. Wow. The 9th district encompasses Dutchess, Putnam, Westchester, Rockland, and Orange counties, all those counties. And in Supreme Court, it's kind of a misnomer here in New York. It's a little bit different. Most states, when you say Supreme Court, you think the highest court of that state.
Right.
Here in New York, we have a lot of, as you know, different courts, some with what they call limited jurisdiction. So, for instance, city court is limited to certain types of cases, whereas Supreme Court is the lowest level court of general trial jurisdiction. And basically, it focuses only on civil cases, which dovetails perfectly with my background as a lawyer. And here in the Middletown City Court, I handle all the civil cases now, unless there's a conflict, which is rare. And so I just be stepping up with cases that are more complex, more substantive. But my career of 32 years is so varied that I've dealt with so many of the types of cases that Supreme deals with. So that's what it covers.
Right. So personal injury, things like that would appear before you?
Yes. Personal injury, malpractice, divorce and matrimonial cases, land use planning, zoning issues.
That's a great point you make about matrimonial, because similar to the misnomer of Supreme Court being a trial level court, you would think family court would hear matrimonial, but that's done in state Supreme Court. That's an important distinction. That's
correct, and I did a fair amount of matrimonial and family practice earlier in my career. In fact, I did have a divorce trial in Supreme Court at one point. So certainly the Supreme Court hears that.
And how do you think?
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, sometimes people ask me, you might be handling matrimonial cases or other cases, and oh my gosh, that's so emotional. I think that's one of the sorry.
No problem. No problem.
One of the reasons I'm running is because I think that people who go to court many times are very nervous, very scared. They don't know what's going to happen. And we lawyers deal with it. We can be nervous appearing in front of judges. So I imagine how the litigants are. And many of them look up at this bench. We're typically on a bench. We're in these robes, and it's intimidating. Sure. And I realize that some of the cases, and maybe because I practice that kind of law as well, the folks involved are so emotionally invested. So I look at my job as a judge is, I have to focus on them. What are their needs? What are their concerns? Obviously, they may win or they may lose if it goes to a trial. That's not, I have to apply the law to the facts, but at least I can treat them fully and completely as much as I can with deep respect, because they have dignity as people, no matter what they're going through. And so that's one of the things I try to bring to my judgeship, if you will.
And let's talk a little bit about the campaign in that big district, Judge Guertin. You have to run. There's about 2 million people, I'd say, in that district, give or take. What party line are you running on? And well, first of all, what party line are you running on, and how do you campaign in that district?
All right. Well, I'm actually a registered conservative. Been registered that way since the 1990s. I did receive the nomination of both the Republican Party and the Conservative Party. The Independence Party, the Supreme Court judges are not chosen they're not chosen, let's say, by primaries. It's a judicial convention. So the Independence Party didn't have a judicial convention this year, but they did give me a letter that said if they had one, they would have nominated me. So they've wholeheartedly endorsed me. And that was their words, wholeheartedly endorsed. So how do you campaign? Well, it's, as you know, it's such a crazy year with COVID. Right. You know, all of the fairs, the festivals, the parades. My favorite festival, the Garlic Festival, was canceled too, you know. So that would be a place where normally you go to meet people. So I've been going around various organizations that have meetings, let's say outdoors, you know, safe distance, social distancing, masks. And so there haven't been a lot of those, but to the extent there are, I'm driving to them. I'll go wherever in the county. I've put thousands of miles on my car so far. And that's how you campaign in the district. You just have to get out as much as possible and see people.
And it's a significant term, right? How long is the term for a state Supreme Court judge?
The term is 14 years, unless you have mandatory retirement beforehand, and the possibility of being certificated for 3 2-year terms when you turn 70.
All right. Wow. I'm jealous. So I'm always jealous of the judicial candidates and the judges. I run every 2 years, but
I know you do. I can understand the length of term, because I think part of it. Listen, it's kind of crazy that judges have to go through a political process, because we are required to be impartial, right, and fair and independent. But we're in a political process. But at least with a long term, that I think that helps add to the independence as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And where can people learn about your campaign, Judge Guertin? I was just on your website and your social media. You have good out there. Actually, I just read that you were rated by the Dutchess County Bar Association, highest rating, right? Highly qualified.
Thank you. Yes, I just got that, highly qualified. That's their highest rating for a candidate for Supreme Court, and I appreciate getting it from the Dutchess Bar. I do have a website, www.judgeguertin.com, has some biographical information. There's also a video we put on there. It's entitled Fair and Balanced. It talks about how I approach being a judge, and I'll tell you how that came about. A friend of mine set up an interview through someone she knew who did video, and the guy told me, so I'm going to ask you questions. He didn't tell me what he was going to ask me. He says, I'm going to ask you questions, and I just want you to respond. And so that little video, a little over a minute, came out of that, and kind of talks about how I approach being a judge. So, we also have Facebook and Instagram and
sure,
and Twitter.
All right. And I know, and so the viewers and the listeners know, judicial candidates aren't allowed to weigh in on the issues that they might hear. So, the interview today that we're conducting, we can't get into all the details because there's special rules for judicial cases, but
right.
Biography is excellent. It seems like you've been working towards this, whether knowingly or not, for your whole 30-year career in the law, a vast amount of experience in all aspects of the law. I wish you the best. If I can help you out on the campaign trail, especially in Dutchess County, where I saw you the other day in Pauling at an event, I definitely will do it. I'm starting to see your.
There you are. I lost your video. There you are.
I'm back.
Okay, I don't know. Before we go, I just want to let you know I'm really proud of some of the endorsements I've received. I did get the endorsement from the New York State Troopers PBA. I got the endorsement of the State Supreme Court Officers Association, which is very happy. The State Paid Firefighters Association, also the Westchester Putnam Building Trades PAC, and the Teamsters endorsement. So those are some of the endorsements that I've received. Very proud of them. I'm very appreciative of them.
That's great. Great news, Judge Guertin. Outstanding. We did this interview on time. Go get to the bench, get your robe on, go out there and apply your trade. All the best to you in the next 3 weeks. 3 weeks from today is a big day.
3 weeks from today, Karen. Thank you so much, and good luck to you too.
All right, Rich. Take care.
All
good
right,
luck.
Take care. Bye-bye.